Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Endeavour, watching the stars through the main viewing screen. His ship had been exploring the outer edges of human space for 3 months now. They were looking for new planets that humans could live on someday. The mission was supposed to be quiet and safe. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange on the sensors," said Commander Lisa Bennett from her station. She was the ship's tactical officer and had been with Morrison for 5 years. Her voice sounded worried. Morrison walked over to her console. "What kind of strange? It's big, really big. And it's not moving like any ship I've ever seen before." Lisa's fingers moved quickly over her controls. "The energy readings are off the charts." Before Morrison could respond, the space in front of them began to shimmer. The stars seemed to bend and twist. Then, like a mountain appearing out of nowhere, a massive ship materialized before them. Morrison had seen Earth's biggest warships. He had seen the mile-long cargo vessels that carried supplies between colonies, but this thing made them all look like toys. It was dark gray and covered with strange symbols that seemed to glow with their own light. Weapons that looked like giant claws stuck out from its sides. "My God," whispered Lieutenant Tom Baker from the communications station. "How big is that thing?" "Sensors say it's over 2 kilometers long," Lisa replied. Her voice was barely above a whisper. The alien ship hung in space like a sleeping giant. It made no sound, but somehow Morrison could feel its power pressing against his mind. This was not something humans had built. This was something far beyond what humans could even imagine building. "Captain, we're being scanned," Lisa reported. "Whatever they're using, it's going right through our shields like they're not even there." Morrison felt his mouth go dry. Earth's shields were the best technology humans had. If this alien ship could see through them so easily, what else could it do? "Open a channel," Morrison ordered. "All frequencies." Tom's hands shook slightly as he worked his controls. "Channel open, sir." Morrison took a deep breath. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel USS Endeavour. We come in peace. Please identify yourself." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the main screen flickered and changed. Instead of stars, they were looking at the face of something that was definitely not human. The alien had pale blue skin and eyes that were completely black. Its head was longer than a human head, and it had no hair. When it spoke, its voice was cold and seemed to come from everywhere at once. "I am Admiral Vextara of the Zephyrian Empire. You will listen and you will not speak until I give you permission." Morrison wanted to say something, but something about the alien's voice made him stay quiet. There was power in that voice. The kind of power that came from being used to having everyone obey without question. "Your species calls itself human, yes?" The alien continued. "We have been watching you. You are young and weak, but you have spread to several star systems. This cannot be allowed to continue." The screen changed again. Now they were looking at space, but not empty space. Hundreds of ships floated in perfect formation. Each one was as big as the ship they had first seen, and there were so many of them that Morrison could not count them all. "This is the third fleet of the Zephyrian Empire," Admiral Vextara said. "We have ruled this galaxy for over 3,000 of your years. We have conquered species that were older and stronger than yours. We have turned entire star systems to dust." Lisa grabbed Morrison's arm. "Captain, look at those weapons," she whispered. "Each of those ships has enough firepower to destroy a planet." The alien seemed to hear her even though she had whispered. "Your tactical officer is correct. Each of my ships can indeed destroy a planet. Would you like to see a demonstration?" Before Morrison could answer, one of the alien ships in the formation began to glow. A beam of pure energy shot out from it and struck a large asteroid that was floating nearby. The asteroid, which had been the size of a small moon, simply disappeared. There was no explosion, no debris. One moment it was there, and the next moment there was nothing but empty space. "That asteroid was made of solid iron and rock," the alien said. "It had been floating in space for millions of years. My ship erased it from existence in less than 2 seconds. Morrison felt sick to his stomach. If these aliens could do that to an asteroid, what could they do to Earth? What could they do to the colonies where millions of humans lived? You are wondering about your homeworld, Admiral Vexthara said, as if he could read Morrison's thoughts. You are wondering about your colonies, you should be. The Zephyrian Empire has decided that your species has grown too far too fast. You must be controlled. The screen showed more images now. Planets that had once been green and blue, covered, with cities and forests. Now they were gray and lifeless. Dead worlds where nothing would ever grow again. These worlds once belonged to species like yours, the alien explained. They thought they could resist us. They thought their weapons and their courage would be enough. They were wrong. One image showed what looked like the remains of a great battle. Thousands of ships floated dead in space. Some were broken in half. Others had been melted into strange shapes by weapons that generated incredible heat. The Corvani Empire had ruled 50 star systems for 800 years, Admiral Vexthara continued. They had weapons that could crack moons in half. They had shields that could stop the light of stars. It took my fleet 6 hours to destroy them completely. Morrison found his voice. What do you want from us? You will take a message to your leaders, the alien said. In 30 of your days, representatives of your government will come to these coordinates. Numbers appeared on the screen. They will witness a demonstration of our power. Then they will surrender your entire species to Zephyrian rule. And if we refuse? Morrison asked, though he was afraid to hear the answer. The alien's face showed what might have been a smile, but it was not a pleasant expression. Then we will show you the same mercy we showed the Corvani. Your species will become a memory, and other young races will learn from your example. The connection ended, and the screen went back to showing stars. But the massive alien ship was still there, hanging in space like a sword over their heads. Captain, Lisa said quietly, their weapons are beyond anything we've ever seen. Their ships are faster and stronger than ours. If they have hundreds of fleets like that one. Morrison nodded grimly. Tom, get me a direct line to Earth Command. Priority Alpha, tell them we need to speak to Fleet Admiral Hudson immediately. What are we going to tell them, sir? Tom asked. Morrison looked at the alien ship one more time. It had not moved, but somehow it seemed to be watching them, waiting to see what these humans would do next. We're going to tell them that humanity just met something bigger and stronger than us, Morrison said. And we're going to tell them that we have 30 days to figure out what we're going to do about it. As the USS Endeavour turned away from the alien ship and began its journey back to Earth, Morrison could not shake the feeling that everything had just changed. Humanity had always believed that someday they would meet other intelligent life among the stars. They had just never imagined that first meeting would come with a deadline for their own extinction. The stars looked different now. They no longer seemed like friendly lights beckoning humanity to explore and grow. Now they seemed like the eyes of predators, watching and waiting for the right moment to strike. Morrison had a message to deliver, and he prayed that someone back on Earth would know what to do with it. Because 30 days was not very long to find a way to fight an enemy that had been conquering the galaxy since before human civilization had even begun. Fleet Admiral Kate Hudson stood in the main war room deep beneath the mountains of Colorado. Around her, dozens of screens showed star maps, ship positions, and data that kept changing every few seconds. Officers hurried back and forth, carrying reports and giving orders. Everyone looked worried. It had been 3 days since Captain Morrison's message had reached Earth. 3 days since humanity learned they were not alone in the universe. 3 days since they learned they had 30 days to live. Show me the recordings again, Hudson said to the technician at the main console. The largest screen lit up with the images that Morrison had sent. The massive alien ship, the fleet of hundreds of warships, the asteroid being erased from existence. Every time Hudson watched it, she felt the same cold fear in her stomach. Defense Secretary Ryan Collins walked up behind her. He looked like he had not slept in days. The president wants to know if we're going to surrender, he said quietly. Hudson did not take her eyes off the screen. What did you tell him? I told him that was not my decision to make. But I also told him that Americans Don't surrender to bullies. Even when the bully can destroy planets? Collins was quiet for a moment, especially then. Across the room, Dr. Alex Turner was talking rapidly into a secure phone. Turner was the head of something called the Terra Defense Initiative. Most people in the government had never heard of it. Even Hudson had only learned about it 2 days ago. Turner finished his call and walked over to them. He was a thin man with gray hair and eyes that seemed to see everything at once. Admiral Secretary, I think it's time you both learned something that very few people know. What kind of something? Hudson asked. The kind that might save humanity, Turner replied. Follow me. They walked through several security checkpoints, each one more heavily guarded than the last. Finally, they entered a room that Hudson had never seen before. Even though they were still in the same building where she worked every day, the room was filled with models of spaceships. But these were not ships that Hudson recognized. They were sleek and dark with strange angles that seemed to bend the light around them. Some were small, like fighters. Others were larger, like cruisers. But none of them looked like anything in the human fleet. For 20 years we have been preparing for this day, Turner said. Not this exact day, of course. We did not know about the Zephyrians. But we knew that someday humanity would meet something bigger and stronger than us. Collins picked up one of the small ship models. These are real? More than real, they're waiting for orders. Turner touched a control on the wall, and the room's lights dimmed. New images appeared on screens around the room. We call it Project Silent Thunder. The screens showed space, but not empty space. They showed shipyards hidden in asteroid belts. They showed factories built inside hollow moons. They showed thousands of workers in spacesuits building ships that officially did not exist. How many ships? Hudson asked. Her voice was barely a whisper. As of this morning, we have 3,412 vessels ready for combat. Another 800 will be ready within the week. Hudson felt dizzy. The entire official human fleet had less than 500 ships. How is this possible? Where did the money come from? Where did the people come from? Turner smiled for the first time since she had met him. Do you remember the mining guild that was formed 15 years ago? The one that said they were going to make asteroid mining profitable? They never seemed to mine much, Collins said slowly, because they were not mining. They were building. Every mining ship that went out into the asteroid belt was really a construction vessel. Every mineral survey was really a search for good places to hide shipyards. Hudson looked at the images again. The ships being built in these hidden yards looked nothing like human ships. They were smaller, faster, and covered with weapons that she did not recognize. What about crews? She asked. You can't hide thousands of trained spacers. We didn't hide them, Turner said. We trained them. Every merchant marine officer, every asteroid miner, every deep space explorer. They all went through additional training that they thought was just for emergency situations. Collins was studying one of the larger ship designs. These weapon systems. I've never seen anything like them. That's because we designed them to fight enemies with better technology than ours, Turner explained. We couldn't build shields as strong as theirs, so we built weapons that ignore shields. We couldn't build armor as thick as theirs, so we built weapons that turn thick armor into a weakness. Show me, Hudson demanded. Turner led them to another screen. This one showed technical drawings and test footage. This is a quantum torpedo. It doesn't explode when it hits a target. Instead, it phases the target's own armor out of normal spacetime for exactly 3 seconds. During those 3 seconds, the armor doesn't exist. A second torpedo, fired right behind the first one, goes through the gap and explodes inside the ship. Hudson watched the test footage. A target drone with heavy armor plating was hit by 2 torpedoes. The first one seemed to do nothing. Then the second one hit, and the drone simply came apart from the inside. The stronger their armor, the bigger the gap when it phases out, Turner continued. Their best defense becomes their worst weakness. Collins was looking at another display. What about these small ships? They look like fighters, but bigger. We call them Hornets, Turner said. Each one is crewed by only 3 people, but they carry enough firepower to cripple a cruiser. More importantly, they're fast and hard to hit. The Zephyrians build big ships with big guns. We build small ships that can get close enough to sting them to death. Hudson was beginning to understand. You're talking about swarm tactics. Exactly. They have 500 ships that can each destroy planets. We have 4,000 ships that can each destroy one of their ships. The math works in our favor. Across the room, an alarm began to sound. A communications officer ran up to them. Admiral, we're getting reports from the outer colonies. More alien ships have been spotted. They're not attacking, but they're watching everything we do. Hudson felt her heart sink. They're making sure we don't try to run. It doesn't matter, Turner said firmly. We're not running anyway. Every ship in the secret fleet is moving to position. We've been planning this for 20 years. We know exactly where to hit them and how to hit them. Collins looked worried. But do we know if it will work? Those aliens have been conquering the galaxy for thousands of years. They must, have faced swarm tactics before. Have they? Turner asked. Every species they've conquered has tried to fight them the same way. Big ships against big ships, strength against strength. No one has ever tried to fight them with thousands of small, fast ships using weapons they've never seen before. Hudson walked back to the ship models. Each one represented dozens of real ships and hundreds of real people who were willing to die to keep humanity free. How long until everyone is in position? 18 hours for full deployment, Turner replied. But Admiral, there's something else you need to know. The secret fleet isn't just ships and weapons. We've been developing new tactics, new strategies. We've been studying every species the Zephyrians have conquered, learning from their mistakes. What kind of mistakes? Collins asked. Turner pulled up another display. This one showed battle formations and movement patterns. Every species tried to protect their homeworlds. They fought defensive battles, trying to save their planets and their people. The Zephyrians are experts at breaking through defensive lines. So what do we do different? Hudson asked. We don't defend anything. Turner said simply, we attack everything. The moment their fleet moves toward Earth, our fleet moves toward them. No defensive positions, no trying to protect specific targets, just pure aggressive offense. Hudson studied the tactical displays. It was crazy. It was dangerous. It went against everything she had learned about space combat. But it might be the only thing that could work. There's one more thing, Turner said quietly. Lieutenant Commander Steve Parker is already in position near the alien fleet. He's been watching them, learning their patterns. When the time comes, he'll be our eyes and ears. What has he reported? Hudson asked. The aliens are confident, maybe too confident. They're not taking any special precautions. They think this will be easy. Collins smiled grimly. Then they're in for a surprise. Hudson looked around the room one more time. Hidden fleets. Secret. Weapons, soldiers who had trained for years for a war they hoped would never come. It was either the most brilliant plan in human history or the most desperate. Give the order, she said finally. Activate Protocol Omega. It's time to show the galaxy what humans do when someone tries to wipe us out. As alarms began to sound throughout the facility, Hudson realized that in less than 24 hours, humanity would either take its place among the great powers of the galaxy, or become just another extinct species that had dared to resist. The Zephyrian Empire. Either way, they were going to make it a fight that the galaxy would never forget. Ambassador Helen Torres sat in the passenger seat of the diplomatic ship USS Harmony as it approached the coordinates that Admiral Vex Thara had given them. Next to her, General Chuck Hamilton was studying tactical displays that showed what they were flying toward. Dear God, Hamilton whispered. There must be over 500 ships out there. Torres looked out the main window. The Zephyrian fleet was arranged in perfect formation, like a deadly parade that stretched across space. Each ship was massive and covered with weapons. They hung in the darkness like sleeping dragons, waiting to show their power. Remember why? We're here, Torres said quietly. We're not just surrender delegates, we're gathering intelligence that might save humanity. Behind them, Lieutenant Sarah Clark was recording everything with hidden sensors. The equipment looked like standard diplomatic gear, but it was actually some of the most advanced scanning technology that Earth had ever built. "I'm picking up energy readings that are off the scale," Clark whispered. "These ships are more powerful than our worst estimates." The communication system crackled to life. Admiral Vexthara's cold voice filled the cabin. "Human vessel, you will take position at the coordinates I am transmitting. You will observe in silence. Any attempt to leave before the demonstration is complete will result in your immediate destruction." The pilot, Commander Bob Chun, followed the aliens' instructions. Their small ship moved to a position where they had a clear view of the entire Zephyrian fleet. Torres felt very small and very fragile, surrounded by so much alien firepower. "The demonstration will now begin," Vexthara announced. "You will witness the power that has conquered 1,000 worlds. You will understand why resistance is futile." The first part of the demonstration was almost gentle. A single Zephyrian ship moved forward and targeted a large asteroid. The ship's main gun glowed with blue energy, then fired. The asteroid, which had been the size of a city, simply vanished. There was no explosion, no debris. One moment it was there, and the next it was gone. "Phased disintegration cannon," Hamilton muttered, making notes. "Complete molecular breakdown." But the aliens were just getting started. Next, they brought out what looked like a small moon. Torres realized it was probably a captured asteroid that they had shaped for target practice. This time, 3 ships fired together. Their beams combined into a single lance of energy that cut the fake moon in half like a knife through butter. "Temperature readings are incredible," Clark reported quietly. "That beam is hotter than the surface of most stars." Admiral Vexthara's voice came over the communication system again. "The weapons you have just seen are our mining tools. They are used for clearing debris and harvesting resources. Now you will see weapons of war." The alien fleet began to move. Ships that were already enormous seemed to grow even larger as weapon ports opened all along their hulls. Gun barrels that were longer than Earth's largest buildings extended from hidden compartments. The ships began to glow with stored energy. Torres felt her mouth go dry. If these were their mining tools, what were their actual weapons going to be like? The answer came quickly. A target appeared in the distance. It looked like an old space station, probably captured from one of the species the Zephyrians had conquered long ago. The station was huge, with multiple sections and what looked like heavy armor plating. 20 Zephyrian ships opened fire at the same time. The space around the target filled with energy beams, plasma bolts, and weapons that Torres could not even identify. The station's shields flared to life, creating a bubble of energy around it that glowed like a small sun. For a moment, it looked like the shields might hold. Then the Zephyrian weapons began to punch through them. The first breach was small, just a pinprick of light. But within seconds, the entire shield system collapsed. What happened next made Torres feel sick. The space station did not just explode. It melted. The metal hull turned to liquid, then to gas, then to something that looked like glowing mist. In less than 30 seconds, a structure that could have housed 1 million people was reduced to scattered atoms. "Plasma cascade weapons," Hamilton wrote in his notes. His hand was shaking. "Complete atomic disruption." Admiral Vexthara was not finished. "You have seen individual ship weapons. Now observe fleet coordination." The entire Zephyrian armada began to move into a new formation. The ships arranged themselves into a perfect sphere, with their weapons all pointing toward the center. In the middle of the sphere, they placed another target. This one looked like a small planet, probably another captured asteroid that had been built up with cities and defenses. "This target represents a typical defended world," the alien admiral explained. "It has shields, orbital weapons platforms, and defensive fleets. Watch how the Zephyrian Empire deals with such obstacles." Torres counted the ships in the formation. Over 400 vessels, each one capable of destroying cities with single shots. All of them were about to fire at once. "Fleet commanders," Execute Annihilation Protocol 7. Vexthara ordered. The space around the small planet lit up like a new star being born. Hundreds of energy beams converged on the target from every direction. The planet's shields lasted exactly 4 seconds. Its orbital defenses were vaporized before they could fire a single shot, but the Zephyrians did not stop shooting. They kept firing for a full minute, pouring more energy into that one small target than most civilizations used in a year. When they finally stopped, there was nothing left, not debris, not dust, just empty space where a world had been. The Planet Killer Formation, Clark whispered. They can destroy entire worlds in minutes. Torres was trying to process what she had seen when Admiral Vexthara spoke again. You have witnessed 3 demonstrations: precision elimination, structural breakdown, and complete annihilation. These are the tools we use to maintain order in the galaxy. The main screen in their ship flickered, and suddenly they were looking at the alien admiral again. His black eyes seemed to look right through them. But perhaps you think these are just empty targets, he continued. Perhaps you think actual combat would be different. Allow me to show you recordings of real battles. The screen changed to show space battles from the aliens' previous conquests. Torres watched fleets of strange ships fighting desperately against the Zephyrian armada. The alien enemies had weapons she had never seen before. Some fired missiles that could chase targets across solar systems. Others used energy weapons that could bend space itself. None of it mattered. The Zephyrian fleet cut through every defense like it was made of paper. Ships that looked powerful and advanced were destroyed so quickly that Torres could barely follow. What was happening? The Corvani Empire, Vexthara explained as they watched a particularly brutal battle. They ruled 50 star systems. They had weapons that could crack moons. Their shields could stop the light of stars. My third fleet destroyed their entire civilization in 6 hours. The recording showed the final moments of the battle. Dozens of Corvani ships, each one damaged and desperate, made a last charge at the Zephyrian fleet. They fired everything they had, weapons that turned space itself into burning plasma. For a moment, it looked like they might break through. Then the Zephyrian ships activated something new. The space around them seemed to fold and twist. The Corvani weapons simply disappeared as if they had never been fired at all. The Corvani ships found themselves surrounded and were destroyed in seconds. Reality distortion fields, Hamilton wrote, they can bend space-time itself. More recordings followed. Species after species, each one more advanced than the last, all falling to Zephyrian might. Some tried to run. Others tried to hide. A few tried to surrender before the fighting even started. It did not matter. The aliens showed the same mercy to everyone, none at all. I have ruled this fleet for 800 of your years, Admiral Vexthara said when the recordings ended. I have conquered species that were old when your son was young. I have seen every weapon, every tactic, every desperate strategy that inferior races can devise. None of them have ever succeeded. Torres felt the weight of hopelessness settling on her shoulders. How could humanity fight something like this? How could anyone fight something like this? You have 72 hours to broadcast your surrender across all human worlds, the alien continued. If you do not, we will demonstrate these weapons on your colonies, starting with the most populated ones. The communication ended and the Zephyrian fleet began to move away. They were heading toward human space, confident that they had broken the spirit of another inferior species. Commander Chun started the engines. Setting course for Earth, Ambassador. As they flew away from the alien demonstration, Torres looked at the data that Clark had gathered, the power readings, the weapon specifications, the tactical formations. It was all there, but she was not sure it would help. What do you think, General? She asked Hamilton. Do we have any chance at all? Hamilton looked at his notes for a long time before answering. They're powerful. More powerful than anything we've ever imagined, but ... But what? They're also overconfident. They've been winning for so long that they don't expect anyone to surprise them. And sometimes the biggest surprise is when someone refuses to give up, even when they should. Torres hoped he was right, because in 72 hours, humanity was either going to surrender. Admiral Vextara stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching his fleet move toward human space. The 72-hour deadline had passed 6 hours ago. The humans had not surrendered. They had not even responded to his message. "Foolish creatures," he muttered to his tactical officer. "They think silence will save them." Long-range sensors showed exactly what he expected to see. Small groups of human ships were fleeing from their colonies. Panic and chaos, just like every other species when they realized the Zephyrian Empire was coming for them. "Admiral, we are approaching the coordinates of their first major colony," reported Commander Thekvel. "The world they call New Haven. Our scouts report it has over 50 million inhabitants." "Excellent," Vexthara replied. "We will make an example of this world. The other human colonies will see what happens when they refuse our mercy." Lieutenant Commander Steve Parker floated in his tiny scout ship, hidden among the wreckage of an old cargo vessel. He had been watching the Zephyrian fleet for 3 days now, sending coded reports back to Earth Command. What he was about to see would change everything. "Earth Command, this is Silent Eye," he whispered into his radio. "The alien fleet is approaching New Haven coordinates. They're moving in standard conquest formation. All ships accounted for." "Acknowledged, Silent Eye," came the reply from Admiral Hudson herself. "Maintain position and observe." "The show is about to start," Parker frowned. "What show?" New Haven was supposed to be evacuated by now, but the aliens were still expecting to find a populated world to destroy. What was Earth Command planning? On the Zephyrian flagship, Admiral Vexthara was puzzled. His sensors showed that they had reached the coordinates of the human colony, but there was nothing here. No planet, no orbital stations. Just empty space. "And a few pieces of debris?" "Sensor officer, explain this," he demanded. "Admiral, our navigation is correct. This is definitely the location of the human colony designated New Haven, but our sensors detect no large planetary body." Vexthara's eyes narrowed. "Scan for cloaking devices. The humans may have primitive stealth technology." "Scanning, Admiral. I detect no cloaking signatures of any known type." Before Vexthara could respond, something impossible happened. Space itself seemed to shimmer around his fleet. Stars that had been empty began to fill with ships, not a few ships. "Hundreds of ships? Then thousands. What is this?" Vexthara snarled. "Where did they come from?" Commander Lisa Bennett stood on the bridge of the USS Liberty, watching the alien fleet realize they had walked into a trap. Around her, the true human fleet was powering up weapon systems that had been designed in secret for over 20 years. Admiral Hudson was right, she said to the communications officer next to her. "They never even saw us coming." The human ships that surrounded the Zephyrian fleet looked nothing like the vessels the aliens had observed during their scouting missions. These were not the simple patrol boats and cargo ships that the humans used for normal space travel. These were warships built specifically to fight enemies with superior technology. Each human vessel was smaller than the smallest Zephyrian ship, but there were so many of them that they darkened the space around the alien fleet. They had been hiding using a technology that the Zephyrians had never encountered before. Not energy cloaking or light bending, but something much simpler and more effective. The human ships had been powered down to almost nothing. No engines running, no weapons charged, no shields active. They had been drifting in space like dead hulks, looking exactly like the debris and wreckage that floated everywhere in this part of the galaxy. Captain Joe Martinez commanded one of the human frigates that had just powered up its engines. His ship, the USS Relentless, was typical of the new human fleet. It was fast, heavily armed, and built with one purpose in mind: to kill things much bigger than itself. "All stations, this is Captain Martinez," he announced to his crew. "We've been waiting 20 years for this moment. Let's show these aliens what humans do when someone threatens our families." Admiral Vexthara watched his sensor displays with growing alarm. The human ships were not arranged in any formation he recognized. They were not trying to protect anything or establish defensive lines. Instead, they were moving in what looked like complete chaos. But it was not chaos. It was something much worse. It was a swarm. All ships, combat formation Delta, he ordered. Prepare to engage the human fleet. Admiral, his tactical officer called out, the humans are using some kind of micro-jump technology. They're teleporting short distances? Our targeting computers cannot lock onto them. Vexthara looked at his main screen. The human ships were indeed jumping around in short bursts, never staying in one place long enough for the Zephyrian weapons to target them properly. It was like trying to swat flies with a hammer. How many ships do they have? He demanded. Estimated count is over 3,000 vessels, Admiral, and more are still appearing. 3,000 ships. Vexthara had conquered entire star empires with his fleet of 500 vessels. How could a primitive species like humanity have built so many warships without anyone noticing? Captain Morrison aboard the USS Endeavour was coordinating one section of the human swarm. His ship had been upgraded with the new weapon systems, and he was eager to test them against real targets. All ships in formation Charlie, he called over the radio. Execute plan Wasp Nest. Target the big ugly one on our left. 20 human ships suddenly converged on a single Zephyrian dreadnought. The alien ship was 3 times larger than all of them combined, with shields that could stop planet-killer weapons. But the humans were not using planet-killer weapons. The first wave of human ships fired something called quantum torpedoes. These weapons did not explode when they hit the alien shields. Instead, they passed right through the shields as if they were not there at all. Impossible, breathed the Zephyrian shield operator. Nothing can penetrate our deflector arrays. The quantum torpedoes struck the alien ship's hull and disappeared inside. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the Zephyrian dreadnought began to come apart from the inside as the torpedoes exploded within its most protected areas. Sir, the alien damage control officer reported, we've lost main power, weapons control, and life support on decks 12 through 30. How? Vexthara demanded. Our shields were at full power. The human weapons seem to exist in a different phase of reality, the science officer explained. They can pass through our shields because they're not technically touching them. On another part of the battlefield, Chief Engineer Maria Santos was watching her favorite invention in action. The human ships were equipped with what she called adaptive armor. Instead of trying to build stronger defenses, she had built defenses that changed based on what was attacking them. When a Zephyrian energy beam hit a human ship, the armor analyzed the weapon and instantly reconfigured itself to absorb that specific type of energy. The second shot from the same weapon would do almost no damage at all. It's working perfectly, she reported to Admiral Hudson over the communication system. Their weapons are powerful, but they're not adaptive. Once our armor learns how to stop them, they become useless. Admiral Vexthara was beginning to understand that he was facing something completely unexpected. Every species his empire had conquered had tried to fight them using bigger weapons and stronger defenses. The humans were doing the opposite. Instead of building ships that could survive Zephyrian attacks, they had built ships that did not need to survive. Instead of building weapons that could overpower Zephyrian defenses, they had built weapons that ignored defenses completely. All ships, execute destruction pattern Alpha, he ordered. Destroy these vermin before they can do more damage. The Zephyrian fleet began to fire with all weapons. Space filled with energy beams and plasma bolts that could melt asteroids. Any normal fleet would have been vaporized in seconds, but the human ships kept moving. They jumped around like angry wasps, never staying still long enough to be hit by the massive alien weapons. And every few seconds, another Zephyrian ship would suddenly develop internal explosions as more quantum torpedoes found their targets. Lieutenant Commander Steve Parker watched the battle from his hiding place and could hardly believe what he was seeing. The mighty Zephyrian Empire, conquerors of 1,000 worlds, was being chopped to pieces by human ships that were individually much weaker than theirs. Earth Command, this is Silent Eye, he reported. The alien fleet is taking heavy damage. They're trying to reform their battle lines. but our ships are too fast and too small for their weapons to track effectively. Acknowledged, Silent Eye, Admiral Hudson replied. Phase 2 begins now. Parker watched as the human fleet suddenly changed tactics. Instead of swarming individual alien ships, they began to form into larger groups. Each group had a specific target, and they moved with the precision of a military formation that had been practiced for years. They're going for the command ships, Parker realized. They're trying to cut off the head of the snake. Admiral Vextara saw the same thing. The humans had identified his flagship and the other command vessels, and they were concentrating their attack on them. All escorts protect the flagship, he ordered. Do not let the human swarm reach us. But it was too late. The human ships had already punched through his defensive lines. Admiral Vextara stared at the human female on his screen. Her words echoed in his mind. Here we are. Such simple words, but they carried the weight of a challenge that no species had dared to make in over 1,000 years. You think your tricks will save you? He snarled. I have crushed civilizations far older and stronger than yours. Admiral Hudson's expression did not change. Though civilizations tried to fight you the way you expected, we're going to fight you the way you fear. I fear nothing, Vextara replied, but even as he said it, he was watching his tactical displays with growing concern. His fleet was taking damage faster than he had ever seen before. The human swarm tactics were unlike anything in his experience. All ships, Hudson's voice came over the human communication channels. Execute Battle Plan Hornet's Nest. Show them what happens when you poke the wrong hive. The human fleet suddenly changed formation again. Instead of attacking randomly, they began to move in coordinated waves. Each wave focused on a different part of the Zephyrian fleet, hitting hard and fast before moving on to the next target. Captain Morrison led the first wave toward a group of alien heavy cruisers. His ship, the USS Endeavour, had been upgraded with every new weapon system that humanity had developed. As they closed distance, he opened fire with everything he had. Quantum torpedoes phased through the alien shields and exploded inside there. SULLs, plasma cannons, fired bursts that adapted their frequency to match whatever they hit. And the newest weapons, called reality shredders, actually tore small holes in space-time itself. Direct hit on target Alpha, reported Commander Bennett from her weapons station. Their port engine section is gone. But the Zephyrian ships were not helpless. They began to adapt their own tactics, using their superior firepower to create walls of energy that the human ships could not pass through. When a human vessel tried to jump through one of these walls, it was instantly vaporized. They're learning, Morrison said grimly. Bennett switched to Plan Wasp Swarm, tell all ships to go evasive. The human fleet scattered like leaves in a storm. Each ship began moving independently, making it impossible for the aliens to predict where they would go next. But this meant they could not coordinate their attacks as well on the alien flagship. Admiral Vextara was finally beginning to see a pattern in the human tactics. They sacrifice coordination for unpredictability, he told his tactical officer. If we can force them to group together, we can destroy them with concentrated fire. How do we force them to group, Admiral? Vextara studied the battle display. We give them a target they cannot ignore. He ordered his flagship and 5 other command ships to move toward the edge of the battle. All vessels fall back to defensive formation around the command ships. Make it look like we are retreating. It was a trap, but it was also exactly what the humans had been hoping for. Lieutenant Commander Steve Parker, still watching from his hidden position, immediately saw what was happening. Earth Command, this is Silent Eye, he reported. The alien command ships are grouping together. They're trying to draw our fleet into a kill zone. Acknowledged, Silent Eye, came Admiral Hudson's reply. All ships, you heard the man. Let's give them what they want. Captain Joe Martinez received the order aboard the USS Relentless and smiled grimly. Helm, set course for the alien command ships, maximum speed. Sir, his tactical officer protested. That's obviously a trap. Of course it's a trap, Martinez replied. But sometimes the best way to deal with a trap is to spring it so hard that it breaks. Over 1,000 human ships suddenly changed course, all heading directly for the Zephyrian command formation. Admiral Vexthara watched them coming and felt a moment of satisfaction. Finally, he would be able to bring his superior firepower to bear on a concentrated target. "All ships, prepare to fire on my command," he ordered. "Wait until they are all within the kill zone." The human ships raced toward the alien formation like bullets fired from thousands of guns. They were not trying to be evasive anymore. They were not trying to be clever. They were just coming straight at the aliens as fast as they could go. "Fire!" Vexthara commanded. The space around the Zephyrian command ships lit up with weapons fire. Energy beams that could melt planets reached out toward the approaching human fleet. For a moment, it looked like the aliens would win through sheer firepower. Then something incredible happened. The human ships did not try to avoid the weapons fire. Instead, they flew directly into it. Ship after ship was destroyed, blown apart, by alien weapons that were far too powerful for them to survive. But for every human ship that died, 10 more kept coming. And as they died, they fired everything they had at the alien formation. "They're using kamikaze tactics," breathed the Zephyrian tactical officer. "They're willing to die just to damage us." Admiral Vexthara watched in growing horror as human ship after human ship rammed itself into his vessels, exploding on impact. Each individual attack did little damage, but there were so many of them that his shields began to fail under the constant bombardment. "Sir," his damage control officer reported, "we've lost shields on the port side, hull breaches on decks 5 through 12, but the worst was yet to come." Chief Engineer Maria Santos had been saving her best invention for this moment. As the human ships died, they released clouds of tiny machines called nanobots. These microscopic robots were designed to eat through alien hull metal and reproduce themselves using the materials they consumed. Within minutes, the Zephyrian command ships began to develop strange holes in their armor. The holes grew larger as more nanobots ate their way through the hull plating. Soon, entire sections of alien ships were collapsing as their structural integrity failed. "What is happening to our ships?" Vexthara demanded. "Some kind of mechanical plague," his science officer replied in panic. "It's eating through our hulls from the outside. We cannot stop it." Commander Lisa Bennett coordinated the final phase of the human attack from her position aboard the USS Liberty. She had been studying the intelligence that Lieutenant Sarah Clark had gathered during the alien demonstration, and she had found the weakness she was looking for. "All remaining ships," she called over the radio, "target the alien flagships. Command section, use the data from the demonstration. We know where their nerve center is." The surviving human ships, now numbering less than 2,000 but still outnumbering the remaining alien vessels, focused all their fire on a single point on Admiral Vexthara's flagship. They had learned from watching the alien weapons demonstrations that the Zephyrians always fired from the same location on their ships, quantum torpedoes, phased through the damaged alien shields and exploded inside the flagship's command center. Reality shredders tore holes in the space around the alien bridge. And the nanobots continued their relentless work, eating away at the ship's structural supports. Admiral Vexthara felt his mighty flagship shuddering around him as system after system failed. He had ruled the galaxy for 800 years. He had conquered species that were old when the universe was young, and now he was being defeated by creatures that had barely learned to leave their homeworld. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "the other command ships are requesting permission to retreat." Vexthara looked at his tactical display. Half his fleet was gone. The rest were damaged and demoralized. The humans had somehow turned their technological disadvantage into a strategic advantage. "How?" he whispered. "How did they do this?" As if in answer to his question, Admiral Hudson's voice came over the communication system one more time. "You ruled the galaxy because everyone tried to fight you the same way. Big ships against big ships, strength against strength. We fought you with something you've never faced before." "And what is that?" Vexthara asked. "Controlled chaos. You build perfect formations and follow predictable tactics. We build flexible systems and adapt to whatever you do. You fight to preserve your ships. We fight to win, no matter what it costs us. Vexthara realized that the humans had revealed something fundamental about warfare that his empire had forgotten. Technology was important, but it was not everything. Sometimes the willingness to pay any price for victory was more powerful than the best weapons. All ships, he ordered quietly, retreat to the outer rim, maximum speed. The surviving Zephyrian vessels began to flee the battlefield, their perfect formations broken and their confidence shattered. They had come to exterminate another inferior species. Instead, they had learned that in the vast galaxy there was still room for surprises. Admiral Hudson stood on the bridge of the USS Liberty, watching the alien fleet retreat. Around her, the surviving human ships regrouped and began rescue operations for their damaged vessels. "Admiral," Commander Bennett reported, "we've lost over 1,500 ships." "Casualty reports are still coming in," Hudson nodded grimly. The victory had come at a terrible cost, but it was a victory nonetheless. "Send a message to all human colonies," she ordered. "Tell them that Earth stands free. Tell them that humanity has taken its place among the powers of the galaxy." Captain Morrison aboard the USS Endeavour received new orders as the battle ended. He was to lead humanity's first diplomatic mission to the galactic core, where other species were eager to meet the newcomers who had accomplished the impossible.